Hi, my name is Lady. I am a multimedia journalist and poet, and I am here to start the conversation. Today is World Suicide Prevention Day, and as a survivor and a storyteller, I'm using my platform to reduce the stigma and encourage open conversations that can prevent suicides, not just in Nigeria, but across Africa and the world. World Suicide Prevention Day was established in 2003 by the International Association for Suicide Prevention in partnership with the WHO. The triennial theme is changing the narrative on suicide with a call to action to start the conversation, which is what I'm doing today. Every open discussion about suicide prevention, no matter how small, helps break down barriers and raises awareness. These conversations help us understand how to better support the people in our lives. Now I want to share some facts about suicide as published by the WHO. Number one, more than 720,000 people die by suicide every year. Number two, suicide is the third leading cause of death among 15 to 29-year-olds. Number three, 73% of global suicides occur in low and middle income countries. Number four, suicide is influenced by many factors, including social, cultural, biological, and environmental factors. Number five, for every suicide, many more attempt. Prior attempts are a major risk factor. Number six, suicide is preventable. It is preventable no matter what anybody says. Nobody needs to take their own life. They just need help. And when they get help, I assure you, they're less likely to actually go all the way to taking their life. On World Suicide Prevention Day, I want to spotlight Mentally Aware Nigeria initiative and share my personal experience with their services. MANI is Nigeria's largest youth-focused mental health organization. While I've been in therapy for some time, I reached out to MANI to open up further about my attempt last year. After contacting their helpline, I filled out a form, and within 4 days, I was connected with a counselor via WhatsApp. We had 2 4-hour conversations, which were instrumental in my healing, alongside a year of cognitive behavioral therapy. Now, I had those 2 conversations 2 weeks apart, and I was informed ahead of time that I would only be having 2 conversations. I wasn't looking to have more because, like I said, I'm already working with a therapist, but I did want to experience MANI for myself, because I knew that when I was making this video, I would want to include a resource for Nigerians living in Nigeria, specifically in Lagos State. If you feel like your current support system isn't enough, I encourage you to reach out to MANI. Speaking with licensed professionals, not just friends or religious leaders, can make all the difference when dealing with depression and suicidal thoughts. So this is not me saying throw out the baby with the bathwater. If you feel like your friends are not supportive enough, or they're telling you that, you know what, this thing you're telling me is too deep, I want you to know that there are licensed professionals who will not give you that response. Their response will be, let's figure out what happened to you, let's understand it so that we know what you are at risk for or what you're at risk for doing, and then let's know how to deal with the root cause of the problem so that you don't end up taking your life. Now I want to share some common myths about suicide as published by Mayo Clinic. Myth number 1, talking about suicide increases the chance someone will act on it. Fact. Talking about suicide can actually reduce suicidal ideation and encourage people to seek help. Myth number 2, people who talk about suicide are just seeking attention. Fact. Many who die by suicide express their intentions beforehand. Always take someone seriously if they mention suicidal thoughts. While there are people who may threaten suicide to manipulate individuals into staying in their lives or into tolerating their manipulative behaviors, it's important to differentiate between a genuine cry for help from a manipulative threat. Myth number 3, suicide cannot be prevented. Fact. Suicide is preventable. It's often a product of genetics, mental health issues, and environmental factors. Myth number 4, people who die by suicide are selfish or weak. Fact. Those who die by suicide often suffer from overwhelming emotional pain and mental illness, such as depression or anxiety. Myth number 5, therapy and medications don't work. Fact. Treatment can and does work. Therapy and the right medications can drastically reduce the risk of suicide. Just like to say a bit more about this final myth that treatment, therapy, and medications can't work or don't work. I did have some former religious leaders and spiritual leaders tell me flat out that therapy doesn't work and there was no reason for me to be in therapy. I have been therapy shamed by people who used to be in my life because the idea of getting help, knowing that I needed the help from a professional, I don't know, just for some reason, it didn't sit right with them. I am glad that I didn't listen to those people. I don't know their reasons for telling me not to go to therapy, even though there was clearly an issue and they were not experienced or equipped to deal with it. So why stop me from going to a licensed professional who has been in the industry, in the psychological industry for years? Why would you stop me from going to them to get help when you can help me? If I listened to them, I don't know how much worse off I would have been. Okay, so I am so glad I didn't listen to them. I am so glad that it was someone in my professional network who saw beyond what was happening online and sent me a link and said, you need to talk to a therapist about what's going on. I am so glad that it's the people who are in my life, who remained in my life, that encouraged me to continue to book those sessions and to continue to share some of the things that were happening internally, things that were not obvious on my face or in my voice, but I could tell were clearly upsetting my emotional balance. I am so glad I stuck it out. And I do want to say to anyone who has been therapy shamed, please throw all of that out of your head. If you know that you need help, if you know you need to speak to a counselor, a therapist, a licensed mental health professional about what's going on with you, please do so. Do not let anybody, no matter who it is, tell you that therapy does not work. Yes, it may take some time to find the right therapist. Yes, it may take some time for that medication to work. But if a licensed professional, if a medical doctor is saying getting on this medication will help you regulate, please listen to them. Now, I didn't need to get on medication, but best believe that if my therapist recommended it, if a doctor recommended it, I would have gone on if it meant that I would end up feeling better, knowing that I wouldn't need to be on medication forever, but only for a period of time until my emotions and my mental state were recalibrated. I want to close out this video by spotlighting the suicide crisis in Lesotho. The reason I'm only spotlighting it is because I want to encourage every African to actually go and watch that video to get a better sense of what's going on in the country. Lesotho is a small southern African nation that has the highest suicide rate in the world. In the world, not in Africa, in the world, with 87.5 people per 100,000 dying by suicide annually, according to the WHO. A BBC report highlights the high rates of unemployment, gender-based violence, food insecurity, and trauma in Lesotho as contributing factors. I encourage everyone to go on BBC News Africa's YouTube channel and watch the video. It's under 5 minutes, and just listen to people who have been affected by either family members or loved ones who took their lives, or by them struggling with suicidal thoughts in their own personal lives, right? I think when you hear and listen to the people who are interviewed, you will get a better sense of why this is a public crisis and why we need to start changing the narrative as soon as possible. Thank you for watching. If you or someone you know is struggling, please encourage them to reach out to a professional. If you are struggling, please reach out to a professional. You are not weak. You are not a coward, and you are not worthless. Help is available, and you deserve to be heard and supported. Stay safe and keep fighting ignorance by changing the narrative about suicide prevention and what it takes to get people from thinking about taking their lives to embracing the fullness and the diversity of life.